The house was filled with the voices of guests, laughter, and the clinking of dishes. As I set the table, my gaze drifted to the portrait of my mother that I had recently hung on the wall. For me, it was a symbol of respect and gratitude. She had always been my example of strength and kindness. But the moment my mother-in-law noticed the portrait, her face twisted in contempt. Pretending to tell an amusing story, she began to spin a web of lies. My mother, she claimed, had been frivolous, living only for herself and neglecting her family. I felt the floor drop away beneath me. Everyone laughed, echoing her cruel words, and my husband, sitting right beside me, roared louder than anyone. A sharp pain seized my chest, making it hard to breathe. I looked at their faces and understood they were enjoying my humiliation. I wanted to scream, but I held back. I knew that sooner or later, I would have my chance to put them in their place. The nights after that dinner were torture. I tossed and turned in bed, staring into the darkness. Over and over, I saw the image of my mother, her bright smile, contrasted with the degrading words my mother-in-law had spoken in front of everyone. Tears burned my eyes, but along with the pain, a strange feeling grew inside me: determination. I remembered how, just before she died, my mother held my hand and whispered, "Every secret will be revealed someday. You just have to be strong." Her words haunted me. In the middle of the night, I went up to the attic, to the old chest that held her belongings. Beneath a stack of scarves and books, I found an envelope filled with yellowed papers. Inside were letters and an official will. As I unfolded the document, my heart began to pound. My mother had once bought this very house from my husband's family when they were on the verge of ruin, and she had left it to us. All the property my mother-in-law was so proud of existed only because of my mother. I sat there in the dark, holding the papers, and realized I have the key to a truth that will change everything. Time dragged on painfully. I continued to act calm, giving no sign that I knew their secret, even though everything inside me was boiling. Every time my mother-in-law made a sharp or dismissive comment about my mother, I clenched my teeth and said nothing. I was waiting for the right moment. It came during a large family dinner when relatives and neighbors had gathered. Laughter and conversation filled the room until my mother-in-law started in again. With a smirk, she launched into another fabrication about my mother, and my husband readily picked up her cue, laughing the loudest. In that instant, I stood up and placed the papers on the table. A sudden silence fell. The only sound was someone awkwardly setting down a glass. I calmly asked everyone to read the document. The guests' eyes darted across the lines of the will, their expressions shifting to shock and embarrassment. It was stated in plain terms. It was my mother who had saved my husband's family from poverty. It was her money that had allowed them to keep this house. It was her final wish that had secured their future. My mother-in-law froze. My husband turned pale and lowered his head. The laughter, so loud and piercing just moments before, vanished as if it had never been there. After that evening, much in the house changed. My mother-in-law, once so confident and loud, seemed to have lost her voice. She went out of her way to avoid me, refusing to meet my gaze, and never again dared to speak ill of my mother. My husband, staggered by the truth, was at a loss for words for a long time. He seemed to realize for the first time that he had been mocking the very woman to whom he owed his entire childhood and his current life. Remorse filled his eyes, and he began to treat me differently, more carefully, more attentively, as if he were afraid of losing my trust all over again. The guests who had witnessed the scene whispered about it for a long time, retelling the story of how truth had shattered lies and pride. And as for me, when I looked at my mother's portrait on the wall, I no longer felt that burning pain. In its place, there was only warmth and pride. I knew that her name had been cleared, her memory restored, and that the truth had proven stronger than all the ridicule and malice.